Getting Jill, our birth doula, was the most important birth decision that we made when it came to our daughter's birth in 2021. And these aren't my words, they're my husband's. He has said, I don't care who comes for baby two's birth, we need Jill there. She is our #1 support. In this video, we're going to chat all about the common misperceptions about birth doulas, what the research says about doulas, how to spot a good doula, how to spot a bad doula, and I'm going to walk you guys through my personal learnings and challenges going through a very bumpy 2-day induction, and I'll share exactly what made my husband a bigger convert than me, and he started out as a big skeptic. Because of post-pandemic travel restrictions, in-laws being in Australia, illnesses, all the things, we found ourselves alone in LA getting ready to give birth. And I had heard about this concept of a doula, but I didn't really know how to go about finding the right one. The biggest challenge that I had was enrolling my husband because he thought that I was being too dramatic or a little extra wanting a birth doula. But now, he says different.
Hi, the tiger going.
Come in, Jill, come in.
We're fully dilated. Jill's here for support. Hi, the tiger.
She got it. She's looking out. She got this.
We were told on a Tuesday morning that I would have to go to the hospital to be induced that night. And I was 38 and a half weeks. My baby was growth restricted and things were kind of moving very fast. The funny part of the story is that I had actually hired another doula who got held up at another birth and sent her replacement, Jill McGoffin. And we really hit the jackpot because Jill turned out to be a much better fit for our family than the original doula. I'll never forget, we just immediately established a connection. I was 1 day into my induction by the time Jill arrived. I was a hot mess, all medicated, and things were just really intense. And we just established that immediate connection. And I will also never forget how surprised I was that the minute she came, she supported my husband as much as she was supporting me. And if it wasn't for Jill's guidance and her expert advocacy during that time, that was the scariest, most intense time of our lives, I don't know how we really would have made it through the way that we did. And to this day, we are still very close. I consider her a very good friend. She is a family member, and that's because we shared that very intimate, vulnerable time. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. So Jill, as I said, she was our birth doula. You're also a postpartum doula, a newborn care specialist, and you are the author of 3 children's books. We're going to talk all about that. But now, tell me from your perspective, like, how was it for you when you came to our birth, when you did?
So as a doula, we always try and connect with our clients as much as possible on the most intimate levels because we're with you during the most intimate times of your life. But when we act as a backup, we don't know these people, right? So when I was asked to back up the other doula, of course I said yes. I got some information on your history. Basically, they're lovely people. You'll be fine. And then decided to, call and talk to you a little bit on FaceTime, I believe it was. It's been a couple of years, but I know we talked a little bit beforehand just to get some kind of face-to-face interaction and then go in and do my thing. And so I was, nervous. We are always nervous as doulas walking to a room that we don't know anyone in. It's special because I believe the universe puts us where we need to be. So I trusted the universe, but definitely was very nervous walking into that room. And I remember still to this day how I walked into that room because the curtain was closed. And I kind of did peekaboo.
You came in and they had put the Pitocin on, or they had started the Pitocin.
Yes. You were in bed. You had the Pitocin. Ash was sitting in the corner. You seemed very, very anxious. The room was there was like this huge bag of your vitamins and stuff that were on the floor. And I walked in and remember going, whoa, they take care of themselves. The room was just a little bit chaotic because I don't think either one of you really truly understood like what you were walking into with an induction, which is the norm for most people. They know they're going to have a baby, but they don't know exactly what's going to be happening. On
Yeah.
top of that, not knowing who your doula was.
I didn't think we'd be there for 2 days before my baby came out. And I didn't think that the doula that we had, had all these sessions with during my pregnancy, I didn't think that she wouldn't be there. So yeah, that was definitely,
It's a lot. And as someone going in as a backup, we know that there is going to be some disappointment that they're not getting the doula that they hired, that they bonded with. So it makes my job harder, but just that much more rewarding when I can work really hard and be successful at getting to know these clients and supporting them the best way I can. But inductions are no joke, and they're never usually you just go in and have a baby. It takes days, but most people don't know that.
yeah, absolutely. And can we talk a little bit about how by the time you got there, I think Ash was like running on fumes, not sleeping. He hadn't
Exhausted.
slept. He was just trying to be there for me, but he was exhausted. And I just remember you being loving yet firm and telling him, you have to go home. I've got her. I'll let you know if anything happens. It's time to rest.
I mean, I don't know if many people know this, but when we support the birthing person, that means we're also supporting the birthing partner just as much. And when I walked into that room, I saw this amazing, lovely man in the corner, so worried, so exhausted, and just not knowing what to do next. So I kind of, as much as I wanted just to go right to you, I gravitated to him because I knew that I could quickly fix some of the things that he was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And that was go home, take a shower, take care of the dogs. I know you had someone taking care of the dogs, or the dog, I don't know if it was multiple dogs, but he needed to get out of that room because I wish, no hospital windows open. I'm sure there's medical reasons, but you were in a room, stagnant air for 2 days with no fresh air, no sunlight,
Sunlight.
nothing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I couldn't pick you up off of the bed to, get some air, but at least I can send him out.
Yeah. No, I think that was when they had just put it in and I was with that IV drip thing and you were helping me to and fro the bathroom.
Right. You're
We
right.
spent that whole night together where I felt so bad because you were just there, barely getting any sleep too. We were just waiting to see this Pitocin kicking in. Nothing was happening.
Yeah. It's been a couple of days. Yes, you were not on an epidural yet. So you were able to walk back and forth. And when we talked, you had said, I need your support. Normally for doulas, we don't go at the beginning of an induction because it can take a couple days. But I always tell my clients, like, look, if you feel like you need extra support or you're struggling, I'm going to come in. And you were very clear that, yes, I think we need your support. And it was obvious you both needed some additional support. So yeah, I did spend that night with you and I didn't feel bad. I felt I was exactly where the universe put me for a reason. It was to support you guys through that. So exhausting, but
Yeah, we can dive more into that day when we talk about misconceptions. So by now, I guess everyone listening has a general idea of what a birth doula is, but I want to hear it firsthand from you, your perspective. What is a birth doula? What is the role of a birth doula?
absolutely. And I tell everyone this and I kind of sound like a broken record. We are an emotional, physical, educational support system for you, your partner, your family, so we can help guide you through the most important time of your life and probably one of the most stressful times of your life for most people, especially if they suffer from any type of anxiety. We are your Google, we are your Sherpa.
You're sure, but I remember
You know, we guide you through this time of your life. That is what a doula is there to do. Support.
And what is the difference between a birth and a postpartum doula?
So, a birth and postpartum doula both support. However, a birth doula is there throughout the pregnancy and sometimes during the labor and immediately after. A postpartum doula is a doula that comes in after the birth and supports the family and the newborn while they're going through the postpartum period, which can be a couple days to a year.
This chat is specifically for birth. Okay, so tell me let's back up to how did you become a birth doula? What made you decide to go down this very unique vocational path that
Well,
seemed so perfect for you? Like you were made for this.
yeah, I'm pretty blessed. I found my career. Funny thing is, I didn't really know what a doula was for many years, and I was supporting births for friends and family just as a friend. When I was a teenager and early 20s, I'd watch like TLC, Baby Story, and Maternity Ward, and I just was fascinated with birth, all aspects of it. So I found myself in the delivery room assisting friends. One day, a midwife, as she's delivering my friend's baby, said, "Oh, you're a doula." And I said, "No, my name is Jill." She's like, "You're a doula." I'm like, "My name is Jill." She's like, she's like, "You are a doula." I'm like, "What is a doula?" She's like, "What you're doing." And I'm like, "What am I doing?" She's like, "You're supporting." I'm like, "That's a job?" She's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know there was such a thing." And from there, never looked back. I was working a corporate job. I couldn't quit. I took my training though as soon as I found something. Fell in love with it even more. Found out how little they make in the beginning. So I was like, yeah, gotta keep working. And then a year after initially taking that training, I was supporting a fellow doula's twin delivery. I was sitting there with her talking, and I got a message from my boss at the time, and it was so stressful and unnecessary. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. So I did exactly what most people say, never do. Don't quit your job until you have something else. Well, I did have something else. I was going to be a doula. So I quit my job and I never looked back. And that's how I became a birth doula. And there's some things mixed in there of why I wanted to be a doula, which is, my personal story on, my births. But the midwife at, Kaiser Hospital is the one that really kind of turned me on to the whole idea of a doula.
Well, thank you to her.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know who she is? Did you keep in touch with her?
I would love to talk to her again and say thank you, but
Well, if you're watching, midwife at Kaiser,
thank you.
reach out to Jill.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so you had difficult births. You have 2 children. Can you quickly just share with us a little bit about your births?
Yes. So I did not know what a doula was, obviously, and I did not even know really about childbirth classes or anything. So I just did my pregnancies blind. I trusted my doctors completely. I was made fun of my weight. I was overweight. I was deathly ill because I was overweight. So I was treated pretty poorly by both doctors that treated me for both pregnancies. They're different doctors. They made me feel guilty for wanting to have a baby. They told me that I was driving them crazy, even though it wasn't me driving them crazy. It was just like some of my test results and things like that. They're like, "You're driving me crazy," like no bedside manners. So I had 2 emergency C-sections, both at 34 weeks. Both times I did not meet my babies for almost a week. The first one, I forced myself to get up and walk, but it's because I went against the system on my own. I guess my inner doula came out. My second one, I didn't get to hold my baby for almost a week.
So they didn't, because I thought that with a C-section, it's common to hand it to the mother as soon as the baby's out.
Nope, not in that time. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, 17 years ago. So I saw the baby, like as the baby was going over the warmer. I think I maybe have kissed my son quickly on the cheek. No offering of skin to skin, no holding the baby, nothing. And then they were whisked off to the NICU. Now, mind you, these were 34 weekers, so it wasn't like they needed emergency support. Yes, they were on oxygen. However, they were breathing on their own. So knowing what I know now, everything would have been different.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow, that sounds
Yeah.
really intense.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
So, given everything that you've lived through as a mother, everything that you've seen supporting mothers or supporting women becoming mothers, you then went on to write 3 children's books.
I did.
Can you tell us about them, the topics, how those came to be?
I'm not a writer at all, but I love what I do so much that I wanted to share my love for my profession with others, and especially with children. Because we have books on astronauts, we have books on how to become a doctor, how to become a nurse. Where is the book on doulas? Where is the book that tells the little kids, like, hey, you see these pictures of your births? Notice your mom and dad are in them? Well, your doula took those pictures, and your doula was someone that met your parents when you were just in their belly, and they watched your parents work so hard and get so excited and love you from way before you were even earthside. I wanted to write a love letter to those children. So my first book was a love letter to the children. My second book was more of I wanted the older child to get excited when, they're going to have a new sibling in the family. So I wrote like a book about introducing the older sibling to the idea of having, a baby brother or sister. My third book was about doulas supporting IVF because let's be real, I would say, and especially in California, the majority of pregnancies are created by IVF. And I wanted people, especially children, to know how doulas can support families even before they're conceived and how much their parents loved them before they were even inside their parents' belly. So I wrote that book. And now my fourth book that I'm writing, and I'm super excited about it, is actually about a little child learning what a doula is and wanting to become one.
No.
To my other books, they're all about, most of them are about someone called Doula Sunny. So this is basically little Doula Sunny. So they're all about doulas in some way because I just love what I do so much and I want everyone to know what a doula is. I want it to be more of a household name.
I love it. I agree with you on that. I think it really should. That leads me to, we're going to jump into the top 10 common misconceptions of doulas, and we'll rapid fire our thoughts on that. But, I am one of the few people in my community that gave birth with a doula. But I also happen to be one of the few people in my community that doesn't have family around. So for us, it was, as I mentioned, it was a 2021 post-pandemic birth. There were travel restrictions, things like that. My in-laws are in Australia, and it was just not possible. So for us, it was kind of like a necessity. And many people that we've spoken to that had family at the birth, moms or in-laws or whatever, and we've shared our experience with them, they were like, well, it sounds like you think that it's good to have the family, and it's not. I'm not saying that it's not, but what you quickly realize in some cases is that these grandmas had the babies like 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot has changed. We'll talk about more of my own personal experience and what really is like, this is what you think a doula is versus the reality of what a doula is. So let's jump into the first one. Doulas replace medical staff.
Nope, we're not. I didn't go to medical school. I don't claim to be a medical professional. I don't know everything about the medical side of birth. I know how to support. So no, we don't replace, we enhance.
Yes, I love that word, enhance. And because I remember one of the things that I thought was so cool was the times that you had worked with women giving birth at the same hospital that I was in, you had a rapport with some of the nurses, and that made our experience a lot smoother because there was already this good connection between us and our doula and the nurses. And that's just invaluable. So
I'm walking into their home. They're not walking into my home.
right, you're on their turf.
Yes, so I respect and I support. They're not my clients, but they're supporting my clients, so I'm going to support them so we can make it the best situation possible. I do my stuff. So that's medical. I'm emotional, physical, and educational. Separate, completely. Always will be.
Love it. Number 2, doulas only support natural births or home births.
Ooh, very untrue. So I don't really consider a natural birth just to be unmedicated. A natural birth is that you're giving birth to your child in any shape, way, or form. There are many ways to give birth, and there are many ways to support. So very untrue. I actually don't like that one because I see people, I wish I had a doula, but I had an epidural. Oh, I'm just going to give birth in the hospital. Yeah, you really need a doula. There's more.
Yeah. Well, that's my next one is you don't need a doula if you're getting an epidural.
That is the biggest misconception out there because with an epidural, yes, you are medicated, you hopefully are pain-free. However, if you stay in one position because you can't move, you are definitely not doing your body or baby any justice because you're not allowing that movement to get baby down into a good position. So what I do as a doula is I am trained in all different modalities of movement and making sure that you're moving side to side up, down, on your knees, in any position other than just laying on your back every 30 to 45 minutes so we can make sure that that baby is doing what it needs to do. If you don't move with an epidural, you are definitely extending your labor and you're opening yourself up to a C-section. Absolutely. So it is very valuable to have a doula when you have an epidural.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I had an induction and I had a very medicated birth. Ended up having an epidural, even though I walked into the hospital with a 2-page birth plan that said, please don't offer me any medication. I will let you know. And then the reality of stuff happened. As a first time mom who is very health conscious and really wanted to do everything the best that I could, I somehow had it in my mind that an epidural was not good, that you just want to stay away from that. After going through my experience, I will say that an epidural is neither good nor bad. It depends on the situation, and there is nothing wrong with you choosing to have one if that's what you want. In fact, I am pretty sure that if I have a vaginal birth this next time around with baby 2, I will welcome an epidural.
I mean, I see nothing wrong with an epidural. I really don't. It's 2024. We have Western medicine for a reason. I feel bad for the people that feel guilty when they're kind of leaning towards an epidural and they're, feeling guilty about it because there's one thing to have some pain in labor. It's another to be suffering. And with inductions, I'm letting you know right now, I've only had one mom out of many, many, many moms that induce that have gone unmedicated. You are dealing with synthetic drugs, which are going to increase the levels of pain that you're feeling. So,
Exactly.
bottom line, I mean, there's nothing wrong with an epidural at all.
For me personally, the fact that it was a medicated birth and the induction was so bumpy, there were so many things happening and not happening. And of course, the medical staff their focus is to try to have this go, you know, get this baby out safely. They're not hand-holding me or translating their medical jargon to make sure that I understood what's happening or what's about to happen. I love how you say that you're a Sherpa helping parents,
Yeah.
anybody who falls under that, surrogates, same-sex couples. You help people climb that mountain of becoming parents in
Yeah.
that birthing process. I'm so glad that you were there when you were there because you were literally telling me every step of the way, okay, this is what's going to happen and this is what they mean. You helped inform me so that I could make educated decisions and also advocate for myself. And you were our advocate too, in a respectful way to the staff. When they were doing the epidural, you were guiding me through the whole thing. I remember it was so scary because you've never done this before. You're sitting there, you're envisioning this huge needle going into your spine.
Don't move. Don't move.
Don't move. And you were just literally just there holding my hand, but your voice was in my ear and you were just telling me this is what's going to happen now. And this is going to take a deep breath. Something else that we didn't mention, and it goes into what we're going to talk about, but you are also into Reiki energy healing. And you came with your essential oils and all of these things, which I'm very for alternate medicine and alternate ways of healing. So Reiki, aromatherapy, acupuncture, acupressure, all of that is just like, yes, please give it to me.
Yeah. It's all very important.
So let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
Doulas only provide support during labor.
So, no, it's not true. However, you can hire a doula just for your birth. Like if I have repeat clients, they just want me for the labor. But usually we support throughout the whole pregnancy because there's a lot of education involved and a lot of emotional support that's needed. So many ups and downs that, pregnant people go through, but both can be true. But mostly we support throughout the entire pregnancy as well.
This is where you and we hadn't met, right? When I was pregnant. So
Oh, yeah, that was true for you.
that was true for me. I did meet with the original
Yes,
doula,
yes.
I think about 3 times, more so when I hit the 3rd trimester. And during the visits, I get I'm going to find out in the second pregnancy how it is working with you from the start. But she would talk through, these are the scenarios that you can expect in the hospital. These are the best positions for labor. She
Mhm.
would walk Ash, my husband, through how he can help to support me through those positions and just any questions that we would have in that instance. Would you add anything else in terms of during the pregnancy, things that you cover or what someone could expect?
I mean, with me, I have no boundaries, and I'm working on that probably with the therapist. But I want to be just hands on. So with questions, concerns, anything, I'm a text or a phone call away. I support that doing that through the whole pregnancy. I have 2 formal prenatals in person that go over everything to expect, work on comfort care, things like that. I usually create the birth plan for my clients. So, I do that as well, but I'm also the source for any resources they need. Like I have a village, like my community is amazing. Whatever you need, your doula should have that to give you the information. I might not be able to do everything physical, if you have a backache or whatever. I'll refer you though to a chiropractor. So a doula also is a source of information.
You have a network that you can.
Huge, the most amazing network. I love doulas and birth people in general. Anyone that's involved with the birth community are super cool.
Okay, great. Number 4, hiring a doula guarantees a perfect birth.
No, I am not tied to the outcome of your birth. I cannot guarantee you anything. But what I can do is guarantee that I'm going to be there to support you and that you're going to get the pros and cons of everything, that you're going to get my love and my attention. Birth is not linear. I cannot guarantee an outcome, nor can your doctor. But what we can do is make sure that you are comfortable with everything that's happening as it goes. That's what we do as doulas. Now, do we reduce the risk of surgical births and other outcomes that we don't want? Yeah, absolutely. But we can't guarantee it.
And there is no such thing as a perfect birth. What is a perfect birth? Just like anything, perfection
There's nothing. No, there's nothing. So,
is just
yeah,
something that.
if my client
Number 5,
is supported, feeling supported, heard, done my job.
I love that. Misconception number 6, doulas take over the birth and have their own agendas.
I've heard of some being like that, unfortunately, and that is not someone that I would like to, work with. However, we are not walking into your room with our own agenda. If we are, there's a problem. My life is not going to be mixed in with your birth, not at all. And I don't take over the room because I'm not you. I'm there to support the birthing person and their family. So is the medical community. So it's your room, your birth, not mine.
Number 7, doulas are unnecessary and not worth the expense.
I fully agree with that completely. I mean, we've gone over everything. I'm a doula, so I'm saying, yeah, everyone needs a doula. We're there to support. We're there to enhance. We're there to just make it a better environment. Is it expensive? Yeah. I mean, life is expensive. Now, insurance is starting to cover us. So there are ways to get around the expenses. There's also registries where you can put on your registry doula services so other people can contribute to that. So it's not as expensive as people put it out to be because of all these resources we have now to cover. So we are needed. My goal for the future is that everyone has the opportunity to have a doula, no matter price or location.
I love that. As someone who had to enroll her very resistant husband in hiring a doula and setting aside some of that money for that, I think that this one, I would say it really depends on the doula. There are times when you might, to the best of your abilities, make a choice in hiring a doula, and you feel like in that moment, you made the right choice given everything that you could take into account. And it might not turn out to be the experience that you hoped or wanted.
Mhm.
And there's really no way to mitigate that risk. As with most things in life and most services that we pay for, it's very much a case by case basis.
It
But
is.
overall, it's an expense that, I mean, I keep saying this, but I'm going to say it again. My husband literally says, I don't care who is here for the birth of our second baby, whenever that happens, Jill has to be there. And now he is much more of a convert than me because he's seen firsthand the value that that can bring. And that reminds me, I want to share with you guys the review that we wrote for Jill after the birth. This was, my daughter was born in July 2021. This was in August 2021. And we co-wrote it together. This is a lot of Ash's words. Jill was a godsend during our first delivery and birth. She was chosen by our doula as her replacement, and we're so glad we met her. She was able to arrive within a moment's notice to the hospital and stayed with us long after delivery. Jill is attentive, gentle, caring, and funny. She holds your hand through every part of the process and helps you understand what's going on and what can be expected. Very important. She is your advocate in the chaos. Her energy is very soothing, and the fact that she also practices relaxation techniques such as Reiki and aromatherapy is a big bonus when you're sleep deprived, stressed, in pain, and afraid. My husband and I already feel like she's a part of our family, and we are so grateful for her presence during a challenging birth. She kept in touch during the days and weeks after and has displayed a real interest and care in our well-being as a family, and that is just priceless to us. Well, we love you, Auntie Jill. And then I want to share too, you just happened to post this client testimonial. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like in real time, just beautiful. So this is someone else that Jill recently worked with. She says, I was in labor for 36 hours and had to have a C-section in the end. Every time I had contractions, the baby's heart rate would drop. So we had to take it slow and easy, and it was too stressful for him. So my doctor called it and we switched gears. My incredible doula, Jill McGoffin, stayed with me the entire time until after the surgery and was my ride or die in every step of the way. Her role as a doula started day one with a huge support system and was on call for me my entire pregnancy. I'm forever grateful for her. Money well spent. She took care of me and my parents, and she will be a part of our family now forever. So if you are as blessed and fortunate to land upon a beautiful being such as Jill being there, you're going to make me cry now, being there with you during this time of like you're being ripped apart energetically, physically, and mentally, emotionally, like, whew, it is just priceless. So let's move on. Let's move on to the next.
Yeah. Move on.
Okay. Doulas are anti-medical, anti-hospital, and anti-doctor.
Not me. Every doula has their own personality and beliefs, but the majority of doulas that I hang with, including myself, not anti anything. It's not our birth. You want medical? Go medical. I mean, I'd go medical. When I interview with clients, they're like, we don't want anything too crunchy or too Western. I'm like, that's me. I'll do a Reiki session and then meditate and pop a Xanax at the same time because, like, best of both worlds. There's a reason for everything. You make those decisions. So no, we're not anti everything. And if that is what your doula that you're saying and you're not aligning with that, then red flag.
Red flag, which we're going to get to, but yes, absolutely red flag. Doulas replace or take over the partner's role.
No. Oh, this is huge because I do have to explain that a lot. No, we are the partner's doula as well. There's such a need to support the partner. They are going through such an emotional, physical time in their life where they just need support too. They're watching their loved one go through so many things. And, as a loved one, you just want to fix it all, but you can't. You can't. So as a doula, I remind them that what they're doing already is enough. They are enough. And I support them and I work with them. I'm their cheat sheet. We squeeze hips together. We do all of it together as a team. It's not my birth, not my baby. It's their birth. It's the partner's birth with the person giving birth. Let them have those moments. So I just enhance it. We're a team, dynamic trio.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that really stuck with Ash was you know, how I said it before, you had him go home. You basically said, look,
Yes.
I've got her. I've got this. It's okay. You can go home. You need to eat, sleep, shower, do whatever you got to do, rest. And he was all pumped up with adrenaline when he was in the hospital, but he talks about how he got home and it all just kind of like washed over him and he was exhausted. And
Yeah.
he was able to spend a few hours tending to himself so he can recharge his battery and come back to the hospital ready to be, you know, my ride or die too, just like you. So that is extremely helpful. The other thing I think was helpful is that, as I mentioned, a lot is happening during a birth like ours where there's an induction and things are not going as you want. Maybe the person birthing isn't responding to the meds. The baby, in our situation, once we got into active labor, the baby's cord was wrapped around her neck. Her heart was the heartbeat was decelerating. I wasn't having contractions. Like there was just all these things happening. And the partner is there, just like everything's whizzing by and they are trying to take it in and understand it, but it's just happening too fast. So I think that one of the things that Ash would agree on is how grateful we were that you were also there to be able to, as much as you were telling me what's up around the bend and what's happening as we climb this mountain, you were also taking the time to explain to him.
Yeah. But also reminding him, when you go on an airplane and you have the drop in altitude and the oxygen max come out, right? They teach you, put it on yourself first and then on your other person. He was not putting that mask on himself. How can he support you when he's out of oxygen? And that's what I remind a lot of these partners, like, look, self-care is important. Yes, you're not giving birth, but you're still here doing all the things and you need to be here present. When you're exhausted, hungry, you're not being your best self for your partner. So I remind them of that. That's why I'm there. So I can kind of take over for a little bit, not replace them, take over so they can have that break and come back refreshed, ready to go, ready to stay up. They have to take care of themselves.
Especially when it's 2 nights.
Yeah.
Went in Tuesday night, and then it was like Tuesday night, Wednesday night. The baby wasn't born until Thursday night at like 9 something PM, right? So that was definitely true. Thank goodness for remember those model meals?
I still remember you talking about those meals. You guys
Like
are so healthy. I walked in like, I brought some candy first. And you're like, all the supplements.
that got us through everything and the
Yes,
Mary's
the food there is horrible. Don't mention the hospital. But,
Oh,
no.
well, I mean, obviously, that's just a given.
Yeah. So good.
Let me sneak the Mary's crackers after my epidural.
So just to say something on that, it's not evidence-based not to eat with an epidural. It's just not. But, doctors are, I think, 17 years behind on most current studies, and they still don't want you to eat. I will never force you to eat. I will never say, go against a doctor, but I will give you the pros and cons of things so you can make a decision for yourself. So I will hold the box of crackers and you can get one. So
Oh, gosh. Okay, and number 10. Number 10 is doulas are hippie, new age, crunchy.
if, no, I mean, yes, no, there's a doula for everyone. Yeah, there's some real hippie doulas, and I'm like, wow, this is exactly what everyone pictures when they hear the word doula, probably. And then someone like me, like, I'm tatted up, I curse, drink rock stars and monsters. Sorry, my doctor would probably kill me for still saying that, but like, I'm not a hippie doula. I do Reiki and I believe in, Eastern modalities. I really do, but I believe in a balance and I wear Vans and everything else. So no, we're not all hippies.
Obviously, I'm a big fan of yogic practices and Eastern disciplines, and I do have crystals on my desk and smudge stick and stuff. So yeah,
So am I.
I mean, this is LA, right?
I mean,
This is Cali, but all joking aside, it just depends on your own preferences. I think that we did a lot of research and narrowed down the doulas, like a list of 6 or 7 doulas that we wanted to interview. For some reason, I have no idea how I never landed on you and your site.
Me
It's crazy. But we had these interviews. We interviewed 7 doulas, and each interview we got more distinctions about what to ask, what not to ask. Oh, this doula's offering this, and this one's offering this. I think it's such an important time to tap into your intuition and your gut instinct,
Yes.
because that is just so important right now. As I personally, this is just how I kind of, if I have an autoimmune thing and I need to like see a specialist doctor, or right now that I'm in the process of switching OBGYNs, my gut instinct is what I'm really relying on. And the times that I have had a little like sign or a little whisper of something and I didn't heed it and I didn't listen to it, it actually ended up being right. So it's just a matter of, it's not an easy process to go through and finding the right doula for you. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And maybe you love the one that you land on at first. But for me personally, it wasn't an easy process. It was a process of self-discovery and of really digging into the research and learning as much as I could so I can have more distinctions and ask better questions, and process of dealing with my intuition and listening to that and summoning that.
Yeah. One of the first things I tell my clients is trust your intuition. How are you feeling about something? Even if you didn't know to ask any questions with the interview, how do you feel with this person? Right off
Mhm.
the bat, how's the energy? If you feel awkward or it doesn't feel right, there's your answer already. So, I mean, just go into it and talking to them like, how do you know, like it's a date, but it's a doula date.
And don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be
No,
afraid
don't be afraid.
to I mean, I'm not saying like be rude or be confrontational, but don't be afraid that you're going to piss someone off or step on any toes or make someone uncomfortable. Like, you are the most important person in this process.
Yeah.
You hold the baton. You get to ask as many questions as you need to make an informed decision.
It's your birth. Ask whatever you want. Now, there's some questions that I get. I was like, okay, well, I'll answer them, but I don't feel like they're getting a true idea of who I am. But again, it's energy. So if they're comfortable with me, then ask whatever you want. If they're
What
like,
can you give me an example of what kind of a question?
I know this is going to come off like, well, of course I want to know. How many births have you done? Do you ask your guardian how many lawns they've mowed? Like, I don't know. I just like, because when I was starting out, I was a good doula.
And you might not have the experience, but you were a good doula. So
Yeah.
doing that might make you seem inexperienced, but your qualities, your positive qualities were still there.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it. Someone might want, I mean, of course, I'm experienced now and I've been through over, I think almost 200 births. I don't know at this point, which is nothing compared to a lot of other doulas. But I mean, just if you're going to base your decision on how many births they've done, then I think you're going in the wrong direction because it doesn't matter.
Well, it does
How can
matter, but it's not as important.
Yes. So just an example, the person that you hired, thousands of births.
Right. Which is
Thousands.
why I hired her. Yes, absolutely.
Me, when I did your birth, no,
Yeah.
no, before we are today.
That's a beautiful example.
That's all I'm saying. I'll answer your question, although I've lost count. But I do put a crystal in a jar for each baby, so I could, count them out or guess how many crystals are in the jar, but I don't count them anymore. I just don't. It's not about that for me.
Something else that I wish that I would have done as a first-time mom trying to find the right doula, which we're segueing into that, like how do you find your right fit doula, is I would have asked the question, are you open to me speaking to some of the women that you have supported through their births to get a first-hand experience of how it was working with you?
Yeah. I mean, I would. But also those people are going through their postpartum journeys and they're busy and, some of them might not have the energy to talk, but I always reach out to people and ask if it's okay if someone asks me for that. But I also make sure that I'm leaving a link at the end of each birth. If they want, they can leave me a review, good or bad. So it's a third party verified website.
Mhm.
You can see it there too.
Yeah, third-party verified websites are great. Having an actual conversation with someone's even better. And you could also choose someone that's maybe already past the postpartum period and maybe
Yes,
that happened a while ago. That's definitely
absolutely.
something that I would reflect on and go back and check. Yes, going back to our original doula, we chose her because she was considered one of those authority OG doulas and had hypnosis certifications, which I was really for. And it all was really great, as you say, on paper, but the personalities, the chemistry was not as amazing and flowy as it was with you and us.
It's all individualized. Doula is freaking amazing. She's the godmother of doulas, honestly. Amazing. She's done thousands of births, but it doesn't matter when it comes down to it's who you vibe with.
Yeah.
Who you continue to vibe with. Who are your people?
Yeah.
So there was nothing wrong with her at
Right.
all. She's a freaking godmother of dualism, but she didn't vibe with what you needed at that time, what you wanted.
Exactly.
And see, that's the universe, right? Like you were still going with her. And then all of a sudden it shifted. The universe put me
Yeah.
to your room that day. So I always say, trust the universe. We will be where we need to be, but you got to trust the universe. Universe has your back.
So let's segue into what the research says about doulas. There's been studies, there's been reviews published in the Journal of Perinatal Education. And this is from 2013. The impact of doulas on healthy birth outcomes. There's also one published in May 2023 in a journal called Curious, The Effect of Doulas on Maternal and Birth Outcomes, a scoping review, and one published by the Office of Health Policy, Doula Care and Maternal Health and Evidence Review. They all point to the following things: lower birth interventions, medical interventions such as C-sections, shorter labor, enhanced maternal well-being and mental health, less birth trauma, which, let's face it, birth trauma is a real thing that's not really talked about a lot, and medical gaslighting. So given the research of what it says, I mean, we've been kind of saying it from different points throughout this chat, but this is a general overview of the presence of a doula can help with these things, has been shown to improve these things or prevent these things. How do you know a doula is right for you? At the end of the day, you can do as much research as you want. My final answer to that would be, how do you feel with this doula?
Yeah.
Are you
Much better.
vibing with them? Are they communicative? Are they open to answering your questions? Do you feel that they can be there for you come go time?
Yeah. Ask them how many births they take a month.
Mm.
We can only take as doulas a certain amount because over that amount, how can we be in so many places at once? If they say, oh, I work as a team and don't worry, I'll be there, or one of my people will be there, you better interview those other people because chances are you might not get the doula you're interviewing.
That's a good point to do that. So how do you know that it's not a good fit?
The conversation is awkward. The client or the potential client is not feeling like, they want to talk much about anything. They're just kind of going through the motions. For me, I know it's not a good fit. And yes, doulas can interview the clients back and decide if they want to work with them or not. Red flags for me are definitely like they want to have a free birth where they don't, oh, yeah, I have a doctor, but what if we just gave birth at home and we didn't make it? Yeah, those things can happen, but those are not things that I'm, making as a goal to happen. Like I'm, again, not medical. I'm not catching your baby. Big red flag. Another one is I don't like my doctor at all, but I'm not switching. or I don't care what kind of birth I have and I'm just hiring you because, whatever. Those are just like red flags to me. If I'm investing in you, invest in me. Let's work together to make this the best possible, birth. But don't come in at half-ass. Like, just it's weird to me. Don't hire. I mean, if you're hiring a doula, you're hiring a doula to help you. Let me help you. So that's how I know.
And so, red flags in a doula, I think looking back at my process and that I talked to several of them, I just want to preface this by saying that there is no bad doula and no good doula. It's all about whether they're a good fit for you and your family. I would say red flags are, do you feel a connection with them? Do
Mhm.
they seem open and amenable to answering your questions, to discussing things, or do they kind of feel like they're rushing through the process? That, also, if you get a sense that they're maybe hiding something when answering your questions or trying to move things around in a certain way, that might be a red flag. And sometimes you don't find out until after the fact. For example, one that ended up being one of the top contenders, after I had told her that we decided to go with someone else, she had friend requested me on Instagram when we were first starting the talking process. And then after I had told her, unfortunately, we decided to go with someone else, she actually went ahead and defriended me from Instagram. So I feel like that would be a red flag because it's just a little, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean, competitive. I guess it's comp- competitive. Like, I don't believe doulas should be competitive. Like, there's no competition. As much as I get sad sometimes I don't get a job, or I might not like the way a doula is advertising. I go back to the universe puts us where we need to be. And if I've interviewed with you and you've added me on Instagram or Facebook and you hire someone else, awesome. I can't wait to see your baby. I can't wait to see you happy, smiling, and in the hospital photos. Like, that's exciting to me. If they're unfriending you, to me, their heart's not in the right place. And I think some people probably disagree with me, but I don't know. This is my passion. This is my life. Like, it's not just a job. So I want everyone happy. If you don't hire me, that's okay.
Yeah.
You
So
get
so I
someone
guess a
who
red
fits you.
flag is someone who gets upset to hear that you're looking around, that you're having other conversations
Oh,
with their doulas, or they
yeah.
get upset, like, with like this. Maybe they don't do something as extreme as defriend you or, ghost you or sever contact, but maybe they just change the way that they're talking to you or they seem bothered by that. That to me is a red flag because it tells me that there are certain attitude and personality traits that might not be compatible with what I want given the situation. It also shows me that they're a little bit short sighted because they're choosing to burn a bridge and close the door when I don't know if a month from now I might say, you know what, this was a mistake. Or maybe I worked with that doula and the first birth was like, oh, okay, but I feel like I want something different. I might have reached out to her in my second, third, fourth pregnancy. So,
And I've seen that happen. I've had it happen where I interviewed someone and they decide not to hire me. And I'm like, awesome. I wish you the very best. And then they're like, hey, my doula's not available for postpartum. I liked you. Can you work postpartum for me? And I'm like, absolutely. Only to find out that she's like, I wish I hired you for the birth. But anyways, I mean, you never burn bridges. And I want the very best for everyone that's out there having a baby right now. Like, seriously. Like, pick who you want feels best. I'm not mad at you for that at all. So that I agree with you. That is a red flag.
so given everything we've spoken about, what would you say to an expecting first time mother who is considering hiring a doula and who is not sure how to proceed or needs help explaining to the partner what it is? What would you say?
For all new moms out there or newly pregnant people that are looking for doulas or thinking about hiring a doula and they're concerned about what their partner is feeling, I would say sit down, have a conversation with your partner on what you both want for your birth and explain the role of a doula and what they can provide to that experience. I would definitely go on websites like Evidence Based Birth and some other websites like maybe Dona, which is a organization that supports doulas, and read a little bit about what doulas do and how we can support pregnant people. Start there. There's a website called Doula Match where you can go on into your zip code, what you're looking for, and a list of doulas will come up in your area. Ask your friends, do you have a doula? Who did you use? From there, I guarantee you, you're going to get a list of doulas. If I'm not available and someone reaches out to me, I'm going to give you 3 other doulas that might be. And have your partners in on the interview. That's what's really important too. Like, don't skip that part. They really need to be comfortable with me, like really, truly. Yeah, I mean, that's my nightmare scenario is walking into a birth and the dad doesn't know me and is feeling very, you know, I guess standoffish and thinking that I'm going to step on toes. So have the dad on the interview or the partner.
Yeah, I will say that's something that I'm very grateful that Ash was open to, is being on those interviews.
Well, he's amazing. I mean, you have a great partner, let's be real. But yes, have him in on the interviews for sure. And your questions are going to shift, by the way. Like, people are like, oh, I'm so glad I interviewed you first because now I have questions to ask the second and third doula. I'm like, awesome.
Exactly. Each
You'll learn.
interview gives you more distinctions. Do you have anything else you want to share with us or say? As
I mean, we've said a lot, but I think, if you're thinking about having a doula, do it. And you're not going to regret it. And if you are nervous about your medical support team having issues with having a doula, reach out to your medical team and have that conversation with them to make sure that they can be on board. And if you really want a doula and they're not on board, you might have to switch. And that's okay. This is your birth, not theirs. Remember, everything is in your power, not anyone else's. Your birth, your way.
Love it. Those are the best parting words ever. Jill, thank you so much for spending the time chatting with us about how you and all the doulas everywhere can help moms, persons birthing, families emerging.
Yep, starting out on a good foot.